While the Pentagon, together with NATO, watched sourly the military exercises of Russian warships in the backyard of the United States, very disturbing news came from Britain. As it turned out, the waters around Britain were literally teeming with Russian nuclear submarines. In particular, on June 16, 2024, the Boeing P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft of the Royal Air Force reported that a Russian Kazan-class fourth-generation multi-purpose nuclear submarine had been detected in British waters, and that this submarine was heading towards the British nuclear submarine base in Faslane. There are 4 British Vanguard-class nuclear submarines at this base. We are talking about such submarines as Vengeance, Victorious, Vigilant, and HMS Vanguard. Despite the fact that these British submarines are considered obsolete, the Russians continue to show interest in them, since these submarines are carriers of Trident intercontinental ballistic missiles. The fact is that in the event of a direct conflict with NATO, Russian submarines will be among the first to deal a crushing blow to Western countries, including the United States and Britain. In addition, one of the main tasks of Russian nuclear submarines is the timely disabling of enemy subs, so that they fail to launch their intercontinental ballistic missiles on the territory of Russia. Commenting on this situation, Western military experts admitted that nuclear submarines of the 31st Division of the Russian Northern Fleet literally surrounded Britain. Moreover, experts admit that in British waters there are not only Kazan-class submarines, but also nuclear submarines of Project 955 Bory, which are armed with 16 Bulava ballistic missiles, capable of wiping Britain off the face of the earth in just a couple of minutes. It is almost impossible to detect such submarines. According to the British military, even if anti-submarine maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft manage to detect such a submarine, British warships fail to approach it, as the Russian submarine dives at full speed to an extreme depth of more than 500 meters, where it is impossible to identify, hear, and detect it. British experts admit that Russian submarines have become significantly more active off the coasts of Britain and the United States after Russian President Vladimir Putin promised to punish Western countries for not only starting to supply Ukraine with long-range missiles, but also allowing Kiev to use these missiles against targets deep in Russian territory. At the same time, sensible independent British experts and analysts called on the Western leaders to stop underestimating Putin's words and threats. According to them, if the United States and Britain continue to provoke Russia, Putin will have no choice but to deliver a crushing blow to the West, after which the outbreak of World War III will simply be impossible to avoid. Sensible Western experts and analysts admit that recently, the activity of Russian submarines off the coasts of Britain and the United States has increased threefold. According to them, even during the Cold War, such a large number of Russian submarines have never been observed off the coasts of Western countries. At the moment, the concentration of Russian nuclear submarines off the eastern and western coasts of the United States has exceeded all permissible norms. Sailors of American warships continue to complain about the erratic and audacious behavior of Russian nuclear submarines off the coast of the United States. According to them, Russian diesel-electric and nuclear submarines periodically defiantly surface next to U.S. Navy warships, performing dangerous maneuvers. Moreover, Russian nuclear and diesel-electric submarines are also staging a real hunt for American submarines, chasing these subs in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. According to Pentagon officials, all this is done in order to instill fear in the hearts of the American military and lower their morale. In addition, citing their own sources in the Pentagon and NATO, many independent experts and analysts claim that several Russian BORZZIKMAN-class submarines of Project 955 are also located off the coast of the United States. The main difference between these Russian nuclear submarines is that they are equipped with special containers. What exactly is in these containers is unknown. Even sources in the Russian military department admit that the contents of these containers and the true purpose of the presence of these Russian nuclear submarines off the coast of the United States is a state secret. Against this backdrop, Western military experts and analysts have suggested that these containers contain giant Status 6 nuclear torpedoes, well known as Poseidon. These nuclear torpedoes, in case of their use, are capable of causing a wave with a height of more than 100 meters and destroying the entire coastal part of enemy territory. In addition, all coastal areas will be exposed to aggressive radioactive contamination that would last for over 80-90 years. According to a corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Rocket and Artillery Sciences, a retired captain of the first rank, Konstantin Sivkov, the Poseidon nuclear torpedo is capable of much more destruction. Konstantin Sivkov is confident that in case of direct armed conflict between Washington and Moscow, Russia will use this nuclear torpedo precisely in the area of geological faults, as a result of which a series of volcanic activity will also begin, including the Yellowstone supervolcano. All this will lead to the fact that a continent like North America will simply be wiped off the face of the earth. At the same time, the Russian expert acknowledged that against the backdrop of the ongoing escalation, the risk of such a development of the situation continues to grow rapidly. According to him, it is precisely the short-sightedness, arrogance, and outright stupidity of many Western politicians that will lead the world to such an apocalypse.